Get the audio working. We usually try to get all this stuff working ahead of time, but we had some technical problems. And nope, that's Wi-Fi. I want audio to be iMic. Okay, so that's that. So I need to make Todd a little smaller because we're going to bring his presentation in. And this window is going to be, I want a window capture. And I want air server, yes. All right, so for now, I'm going to get the Safari browser. Oh, I have Safari open here. There we are, so we can get some video out to the screen. I want none of those. I want Safari. You know how it never works when you're trying to show it live, but it works fine when you're testing everything? All right, let's hide that window and do it as the display. All right, so now if we do that, and looks like we are live. Okay. All right, so we were talking about the Apple product Red, which is their it's the charity that Bono from U2 set up to fight AIDS and do some AIDS research, especially in Africa. So you can now get your iPhone 8 in product Red, and they also have cases and headphones, other things in the product Red logo. So when you see that product logo, there are donations to AIDS Research Foundation. So it's a nice charity to be able to put out. All right, let me make sure we're getting live on here. Yes. Okay. So yeah, we were doing news, right? Q&A was later. One of the things that was interesting is Apple changed their news link, and now they have more. If it will come up, they have more detailed news. We're coming up on the end of a quarter. Yeah, January, February, March. So March was the end of a quarter. We should be getting the second quarter results soon. Generally speaking, Apple does the best they've ever done in every quarter. They sell lots and lots and lots of things. And there's an interesting statistic now that they have been trying to get all of their stores and facilities to be powered by renewable energy. So in a lot of their stores have solar panels on the roof, which is kind of neat, and it's not. It's one of these sort of little, you know, they're a little. I don't know what the right word is. They're not directly powered by renewable energy, but they're also doing carbon offsets, so that with their different facilities. So this facility here in Singapore, they have 32 megawatts on 800 rooftops in Singapore. So they're able to do renewable energy there. One of the problems with solar panels that we run in here in Rochester is it has to be sunny for solar panels to work. So in areas where they get a lot of sun, they can use solar. We're lucky here to have Niagara Falls, so a lot of the area is powered by the falls as well. And the top of the headquarters, the new headquarters, is all solar panels as well. I forget, it was some ridiculous number of acres of space, excuse me, on the roof. It's like a mile in circumference. So who's good at math? What's the surface area of a ring a mile in circumference? So they have a lot of that as well. Yeah. And then we have to know how wide it is too. So the other recent thing is the iMac Pro has started to ship in pretty decent quantities. Anyone have an iMac Pro? Todd, did you get one? No, yeah. We've had several of our video production customers come in and get them. They usually go for the 10-core model, which has the highest turbo speed. So they're looking at $7-8 each. And Apple released new versions of their Final Cut and ProRes for the iMac Pro especially, because that's typically what people who buy an iMac Pro are using it for super high-end video production, you know, Hollywood movies and high-quality commercials. And for the rest of us, they have started selling the space gray keyboard and mouse separately. So the neat thing about the iMac Pro is it is space gray and comes with a space gray keyboard and mouse. And now you can buy those separately for your silver iMac. So that was a big deal when that was first announced. A lot of the bloggers were saying, "Oh, I want that color," because it's a different color. That's the only way people know you bought a new computer is it's a different color. In fact, I had that conversation with a customer today. They wanted a silver one like their old one, and so, well, you sure you don't want space gray? Because no one's going to know it's a new one then. You can. There is a company called, well, you could paint it and probably kill it. There is a company called Colorware that will custom paint any of Apple products and many other third-party products as well. And you can have multicolor paint. You can buy pre-colored devices, or you can buy a device and then send it to them for you. They are quite a bit expensive if you want to do it, especially if you want two colors or you want a texture. So it can get quite a bit expensive. But yeah, you can put different colors on it. One of the things that's actually usually a little easier are skins or covers, and we sell a lot of those in our store. And it's cheaper than colorizing the whole computer. And we often like to recommend those to people with kids or students that are taking their computer to school. Helps protect the fit and finish from scuffs and scrapes and dings and dents, which can affect the resale value as well. But the cases and skins make the computer a little bit thicker. And that's the big thing now. All the computers are thin. That's the new buzzword. Everything has to be thin. Yeah, the better ones. Spec is probably one of the better companies. Spec and Incipio. They do a lot to engineer the right thermal vents for them. But you can, if you buy the cheap knockoffs on Amazon, then that may not have enough cooling around it as well. And one of the things we see, especially with laptops, is that we have to stop calling them laptops. They're too hot in many cases to actually go on your lap, or your lap gets too warm. And the vents on the computer are on the sides and on the backs, and the little feet on the bottom lift the computer up off the desk, so there's airflow under the desk to help dissipate the heat. You put it on your lap or a soft surface, and it may not get enough airflow around it to keep it cool enough. So there are active cooling laptop desks that plug into the USB and actually have a little fan in them. And if your feet rub off or wear off, which we see sometimes over the years of sliding your computer on a desk, the feet can come off. The other problem that has is in addition to then lowering the computer so there's no airflow under it, you can get dust and gunk up inside your computer through the hole now in the bottom of the computer. So you want to get those feet put back on as soon as you can if they do come off. All right. Any other interesting Apple news that you know of, Todd? Sure. Yes, that was a big thing. Right. So the question is and the comment is about DisplayLink, which is software that allows third-party USB monitors to work. So instead of connecting your monitor via the video port, you can connect it via USB. And it's often useful in people that want more than one monitor. So typically, your computer only has one video port, and if you want to have 3 or 4 or 5 monitors, you need more ports, and generally would use USB. And so DisplayLink is software that enables you to put video over USB. And there was a problem that surfaced in 10.3.4, the system update 10.3.4, which my computer just decided to install by itself, that causes problems with DisplayLink technology. Some of the DisplayLink docks may not work as well. So they're working to figure out a way to do that. Let's see, so they have a new driver 4.3 that will let you enable clone mode but not mirror. What's the difference between clone and mirror? It's the same thing, I would say. You'd put the same image on both screens. So right now, between my screen here and the projector as a second screen, I have the same image, but it can be often useful to have 2 monitors with 2 images. So you've got, your web on one monitor, your mail on one monitor. You've got, the program you're working on another monitor. So that can be very, very common. So if you do use DisplayLink, beware that there may be a problem after the 10.3.4 update, and you may want to hold off from installing 10.3.4 until DisplayLink gets its updates, gets its drivers updated. Looks like they have a beta out that hopefully will fix some of the issues. But yeah, that's nice catch. So that's always one of the caveats about updating your software is you hope there's no compatibility problems. And one of the things we often recommend is don't install the updates immediately. Wait a week or 2. And then read the news reports to see if someone else has a problem with something you have. Oftentimes it's third-party software, but occasionally it's some of Apple's own software. Some specific thing may not work. And if you are dependent on that specific thing, then your production could be halted and you can't work. So it's often a good idea to wait a week or 2 to make sure any glitches get fixed. And sometimes if the problems are big enough, there might be a 10.3.5 update that comes out really quick too to fix that issue. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I told it to install on Sunday, and I thought it was done. Maybe it wasn't. No, I don't know. Oh, good point. For some reason, my clock was wrong. It was New Year's Eve 2016. Maybe that's why the update didn't finish installing, because for some reason the clock was wrong. Crazy. And so a lot of people wonder where to go to for news. And we try to look at some of the main news magazines. Macworld. Nope, I don't need the UK version. Macworld is one of the oldest Mac news sites, and they had a print version for a long time, and they stopped doing that recently. But the Macworld website still tracks a lot of the news and things that are going on. That's the other news. imore.com is another one that I like reading to keep up with things. There's a couple of rumor sites that try to dig more into rumors versus legitimate news stories, or not legitimate, but shipping news. Apple Insider and Mac Rumors are a couple of the big ones too. And then of course Mac Life. Do you still write for Mac Life? iPhone Life, which is not part of Mac Life. So, and then there was Mac Week, and how many people remember Mac Week or Computer Shopper, some of the early magazines? So iPhone Life, if you have an iPhone. So what we're seeing is Apple's been running commercials for the iPad, especially the iPad Pro, to tagline is sort of "What's a computer?" And so the kid's doing all this stuff all day long, and mom, you know, at the end of the commercial, mom says, "You've been working on your computer," and he goes, "What's a computer?" Which is a little silly, but these tablets are getting powerful enough that they pretty much are computers, and the phones are getting so powerful now that some people are using that as their mobile computer. So it's interesting to see how that can happen.
There was some news since your last Apple CIDER about the education.
Yes, the education event. Apple had a big education event in Chicago and introduced a few products, if I spell education right, related to the education community. A lot of schools are now putting iPads on students' desks, and so there's a new version of the classwork. One is Apple, one is Google. Software that lets teachers manage the iPads, so the teacher can push a screen to all of the iPads, so all the students are on the same page, literally, as the teacher is doing something. Teacher can also monitor what the student is on, so if they try to sneak over to Facebook or something, they can't get in. And so Apple is really pushing into education pretty big with their iPads. And one of the things they did was lower the price of the iPad nothing. So iPad by itself, no, not the iPad Pro. There's a new 2018 model. Here we go, the 9.7-inch iPad Pro, faster processor, and now supports the Apple Pencil. So before you had to have an iPad Pro for the Pencil, and it still only starts at $329. So they've really pushed in the price to be able to use the Pencil, which is great for drawing and sketching, and for education, it's $299 for the iPad. So that lets you start getting into some of the neater sketching type programs with the Apple Pencil. Although there are several other pencil and stylus brands you can use, the Apple Pencil is kind of neat because it's an active device that knows it's got pressure sensitivity, knows how hard you're pushing. It has, oops, what did you do that for? It has palm rejection. So one of the big things with some styluses is you may rest your palm on the screen while you're writing or drawing, and it can see that, the iPad can see that as an actual touch. And so with the Apple Pencil and some of the smarter devices, it can reject that palm hit as a touch. We see that a lot on our point of sale iPad we use. When people go to sign their name, they accidentally touch the charge button before they finish signing their name. So we're trying to send a lot of feedback to Intuit about move the charge button to the top of the screen so it's not at the bottom right where they put their hands. Yeah, so the iPad new 2018 model has same price for $329. So that does mean at our store we have a lot of iPad 2017 models have now dropped in price. Starts at 32 and comes in 3 colors, 32 or 128. And you can also get Wi-Fi or cellular models, $130 more. So 32 is now the minimum config for most of the iPads. The iPad mini minimum is 128, which is interesting. So the iPad mini is $399, smaller screen, but it costs more. But it has 128 gigs of storage, and it's an older processor. They haven't updated the mini in a while. So we're going to see what they're going to do there. So 32 gigs is a pretty decent storage. If you can swing it, 128, 4 times the amount of storage, there's always a need for storage. So you can either, oops, why did my video stop? You can either get the storage on the device, or you can pay for more storage in the cloud. Some people don't like that extra cloud payment and will prefer it on the device itself. The other thing, well, let me do Apple news for a minute here too. About a year ago, actually a little over a year ago, Apple announced, not really announced, but they took a bunch of bloggers and journalists and said, we're sorry about the Mac Pro, the trash can-based Mac Pro. It hasn't been updated in almost 5 years, and they said they designed themselves into a corner. It's designed around a triangular module with two graphic cards, and then the I/O board makes a triangle, and there's a thermal, they call it the thermal core, so that heat rises up out of the center of the core. And they bet the design on the fact that people were going to use multiple video cards to increase their workflow. That never caught on, and apparently they can't upgrade it very easily because it's a very small video card. It's not the standard length video card in most PCs. And so they said, we're sorry, there's a new modular Mac Pro coming, but not this year, what they said in 2016. Turns out they didn't mean 2018 either. So now we're saying 2019 for the possible next Mac Pro. And sort of in the meantime, the iMac Pro came out, but starting at $5,000, it's pretty steep, although that does include a monitor. The Mac Pro starts at $3,000 without a monitor. And Apple doesn't make a high-end monitor, doesn't make any monitor anymore, actually. So there's also an expectation that they're going to come out with a high-end, probably 4K monitor, maybe 5K monitor like the iMac has, with their Mac Pro as well. So if you've been waiting for a Mac Pro redesign, it's probably going to be another year. So now everyone was hoping at WWDC this year they might announce something, but if it's not going to be till 2019, they probably won't. Maybe another early technology preview. One of the things they did say is it would be modular, and that's like the old what we call the cheese grater Mac, where you open the door and you can pull out the hard drives, put in a bigger hard drive, put in more cards, change the processors. And high-end users like being able to upgrade their machine, but the vast majority of people never do. And so that market segment kept getting smaller and smaller, and so Apple eventually pretty much abandoned it. And so that has made a lot of people mad. And we hear from a lot of video editors that actually switched over to Windows machines and using Adobe Premiere instead of Apple Final Cut, because you can customize your Windows machines and put all kinds of graphics and video and CPU in them, and they're much more easily upgradable than the Mac was. I know some of our video customers are still running the cheese grater Macs by putting modern video cards in them, replace the hard drives with solid-state drives, and so you can still get a lot of life out of the old models because they can be upgraded. And then there was big news out of Facebook. Cambridge Analytica is a data broker, basically we call it, and they were able to use. In fact, it wasn't leaked. A lot of headlines are saying that. Facebook has what's called an API, which is a programming interface to allow companies to access data through Facebook, and so that's how some of the third-party advertising apps works. And so what happened is Cambridge Analytica went through about 87 million, from 55 now up to 87 million accounts in order to collate data. And one of the ways they did it is by quizzes. Never take a quiz on Facebook. What's your mafia name? What's your Game of Thrones name? What's your porn? Used to be your porn name was a street you grew up on and your mother's maiden name. So now all these things have come out, and for two reasons. You shouldn't fill out those surveys. One is you're giving these people data without realizing it. So you're giving them, if you pick, your street name or your mother's maiden name, the bad guys can also use that as your security answers. So you can have a couple of issues both ways. And I see this. Yeah, the stream has died. You can have issues both ways. That the bad guys will get your data and use it for nefarious purposes. And now we're seeing the good guys got your data, although maybe not good guys. And some of what they were doing has surfaced as part of the Mueller investigation into Russian tampering in the elections, that there were, 50,000, some ridiculous number of bots on Facebook grabbing information like this to, in essence, rile everybody up. So they would post pro-Trump and rile up the anti-Trump people, and they would post pro-Hillary and rile up the anti-Hillary people. So they're just riling everybody up which was interesting that they went both sides. So now Facebook has a link, as I have it here. They have a link you can go to on Facebook in order to see if your data was used in the analytic. In fact, I should probably post this article to our website here. To see if your data was part of the Cambridge Analytics data dump, and how to set your privacy settings better. And actually, excuse me, Zuckerberg is actually testifying before Congress. Excuse me, right now, as to why this happened and how it happened. And what's a little annoying is that, typical for Facebook, they do something terrible, they apologize and say we didn't mean it, and then they move on until the next scandal comes along. And we'll see what not secure. We'll see what happens to Facebook. That's not what I wanted. To Facebook when all is said and done. How many people have stopped using Facebook or deleted their Facebook account since some of this came out? Yeah. Did it come back? Okay. Wonder why it hiccuped. I did notice mine was off too. Yeah. All right, it didn't copy the text I wanted. Give me a moment. We'll make sure this gets copied in here. So it's interesting that one of the problems is that Facebook is designed to share information with other people. Unfortunately, it shares information with other people. So you're kind of stuck both ways. The main homepage. If you scroll down, yep, just keep scrolling down. It ended. Yeah, if you keep scrolling down, you'll get to the information. So there's the handout from the Stop the Cap last month. Yep. And as Charlie mentioned earlier, the Amazon Smile charity donation is available. They were having a three times the charity donation rate. So basically, anything you buy on Amazon, most items, we get a 0.5% kickback to us as a charity organization. And for a while last month, they were doing triple donations. So I got to take that off now. Alrighty, any other news anyone knows of offhand? Did anyone catch the Tim Cook interview on MSNBC with Kara Swisher and Chris Hayes? I saw the article on Saturday, and this article says starts tonight at 8 p.m. It meant last night at 8 p.m. So I'm pretty sure on the Recode site, which is Kara Swisher's page, they have a video you can watch. So Kara Swisher used to be with Walt Mossberg and their All Things D, which was a big digital extravaganza, and they all used to be part of Wall Street Journal. So they're very well known in the tech industry. I usually hear Elon, yeah. Yeah, Elon Musk has talked a little bit in several places about AI. Excuse me. Let's see. I don't know if I can find it real quick. One of the things that he has said is, here we are, that we need to put regulations in now before AI becomes sentient, just in case the worst happens. And that's kind of harkens back to Asimov's 3 laws of robotics, that you want to make sure your robots don't hurt you intentionally. And we see an interesting parallel with the late Stephen Hawking, who was always concerned about broadcasting to aliens, so that he was a little concerned about the search for extraterrestrial life, because he's afraid they'd come here and conquer us. Because all through recorded human history, whenever an advanced society met another culture, they wiped out the other culture and took over. So we don't want that to happen to us. Alrighty, shall we switch over for Todd? Let me click my button here, and we'll make this window full screen. And where's the button that says full screen? Come on, that one. That's full small screen. I want full big screen. How about we just drag it, I guess? There we are. All right, so Todd is going to talk about the Consumer Electronics Show, which happened in January. And one of the things that we sort of joke about is this is all the stuff that you'll probably get for Christmas. We just didn't say what year Christmas.
Great.
All right, take it away, Todd.
All right, thank you. As some of you know, I write for iPhone Life magazine, and that's how I get to go to this show, and I get all tons of free stuff, some of which is right here. Others are in the slide deck. And I get to show it to you guys. And who goes to the apple cider picnic? Are we going to have that again this year?
Yep.
Yeah. The picnic in July. So a lot of the stuff that I donate there is from these vendors. Either I picked it up at the show, or they send me it after the show because they're just showing off prototypes in Las Vegas. So you have a chance to own some of this stuff at a really good auction price.
Yeah, it is.
All right, I'll make sure I'm a little closer.
Can we raise it up a little for you? Would that help? Yeah, there you go.
Okay, so you will have a chance to bid on this stuff at the auction. Okay, so like I said, I've been going to CES for about 20 years, and before that, it was called Comdex. In fact, I exhibited at Comdex when I worked for Sun Microsystems from 1988 to 1993. And one of the trends, people always ask me, what are the trends? The thing that I like is, those big screens, those big flat TVs, as big as they are, they're so much lighter than the 20-inch Sony CRTs we used to have to ship around. So, I think it's a step forward. This year, CES covered 2.75 million square feet, which is 63 acres, and I think I walked them all. So there was so much to see, but I've categorized my observations into voice assistants, celebrities, oddities, and because we're from Rochester, the Rochester Connection. So again, every time I come back from CES, people ask me what the big thing was. In the past, it's usually been about TVs getting bigger, thinner, and more high-res. But recently, drones and augmented and virtual reality have come on strong. And then a couple of years ago, the Internet of Things kicked off as it became cheap and easy to add wireless chips to just about anything. Toys, toasters, you name it. And then came Amazon Alexa, and this year I would say it was the Internet of Smarter Things, as Amazon and Alexa and other technologies like machine learning and image recognition found its way into everyday devices, as we'll see, like mirrors and stuffed animals. Thanks. All right. So, speaking of smarter things, Aflac showed off a robotic stuffed animal of their famous duck mascot. And they also had the real thing. So you see the picture of me there, that animated GIF. That was a real duck, and I got to pet it.
Where'd you plug the USB port?
Exactly. That's why he says, Aflac. But they also had this toy built specifically for children with cancer, and Aflac is giving them away for free, and it's a noble effort. I got to meet the inventor, Hannah Chung, and the toy responds to the patient's emotions as they present a coded NFC chip, a computer chip, to the duck's tummy, and it responds accordingly. They've had trials with about 100 patients, and it's proven successful. So this is a nice story. Now, it's no big deal to have a light switch that can be controlled by Alexa. How many people have an Amazon Alexa or a Google Home in their house, right? So
everyone that has one at home just triggered.
Yeah, sorry.
Call it an Echo, maybe.
Yeah.
the A device.
Exactly. So it's no big deal to have light switches controlled by A. But now you can have A built directly into your light switch with iDevices. So you see that little blue circle? That's an actual Alexa device built into the light switch. So it obviously controls that light switch, but it also can do everything an Alexa can. You just talk to it like you would an Echo Dot. So that's nice, because I have Echo Dots in just about every room in the house, but now I wouldn't have to worry about where I place them and taking up space on my nightstand. You could just have them invisible, basically, in the light switches. This is all a prototype. It's not released yet. I would expect it to be at least $60.
That's one of the other things at CES is you often don't get a price because they don't know yet. They want to see how much interest there is before they set the price.
Right. In fact, iDevices, this company, their main line of business is making things for other companies. So they sort of put these things out as prototypes and don't necessarily, like you don't see iDevices at Best Buy. You know, you'll see Wemo or other brands which might actually be made by iDevices. Yeah, you gotta think about that. I mean, everything is wireless now. Everything's connected. The thing I worry about, because I have a garage door and a front door lock that are all controlled by this stuff. You know, what if you just leave your window open a crack and some burglar says, "Alexa, open the front door"? So the good news is a lot of them have thought of that, and they don't just respond to that, but they actually require a passcode. That's another good question. That's a big difference between Amazon and Google. Google will respond to different family members and know who's talking. The Amazon device doesn't.
So every voice is counted as any voice.
Yep. Now your mirror is getting smarter. It can analyze your appearance and make clothing and makeup recommendations. And of course, these guys all leverage Amazon Alexa to speak and show anything that your Echo speaker could handle as well. Anybody watch on, I think it's on Netflix, What Happened to Monday? It's a movie specifically for Netflix, one of those Netflix originals. And it's about this future where you're only allowed to have one child. And this family has septuplets, 7 kids, and they're all identical girls. And so they name them Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. And only one is allowed to go out of the house on any day, and that's their day. Their name is their day. And, you know, so they as soon as they come home, they go in front of this intelligent mirror, and they say, okay, here's what happened, here's who I saw. You know, if they get a runny nose or a blemish in their face, the person who goes out the next day has to use makeup to replicate that. So I was telling the people about this, and like, everybody keeps coming up to us and telling us, I've got to see this movie. But that's what these mirrors are like, is that they can tell you, oh, it looks like you're a little bloodshot, and you know you should have. What Happened to Monday?
And Amazon has had their Echo Show, which is kind of the first tier of this type of thing, where you try on outfits and it will tell you which one it likes better, or which one matches your skin coloring better.
They have the Echo Look, I think.
No, that's right. The Echo Look. The show is an Echo with a screen, and the Echo Look is one that actually looks at you and will comment.
Camera. I think it's one of those technologies in search of a solution, you know, like, well, we could build this and it can use artificial intelligence to determine what you're wearing. So now how can we make a reason for people to buy it? I did buy an Echo Spot, which is the smaller, round Echo device. And maybe we can bring it up later, and I really like it. It's at the cheapest sale, it was about $104. And if you think of it just as an alarm clock, that is always got the right time, and you can tell it what time to set an alarm for, and you can then run skills that are visual and see the weather and see Anderson Cooper tell you the news. It's really cool for $109. So, yeah. Oh, here's a little video of the mirror in action. Smarter furniture. There's even a smart couch with integrated home automation controls again, and wireless charging for your devices. So you just set your phone down to charge it. This reminds me of my own Lazy Boy, which I drilled holes in to run power and Ethernet cables in, and Velcroed my remote control onto 20 years ago. So, yeah. So kids these days have it made. I was thrilled to get a Pong video game one holiday season, and now that's considered a retro. In fact, I just picked up the Atari Flashback with 104 games built in for 15 bucks. They had a mechanical Pong coffee table, which was really cool. You see that video there. And it's all done by magnets and dials, and it's pretty cool. And so augmented reality and virtual reality was a big deal at CES. This was cool. If you're a Harry Potter fan, there was a chess set that moved pieces automatically, and you could play against the computer, against the table itself, or a friend who was using either the companion app thousands of miles away, or if two people have the same chess set, they would synchronize and you could play against each other. That's pretty cool. This was not voice activated, but it was app controlled, so you could move a piece on the app, and that probably wouldn't be too hard to do. Here you see smarter screens. These are big, like imagine the Kinect, but the whole screen was knew where you are and as you're playing and using virtual reality. So the nice thing is you don't need to wear special glasses for these games.
Was this that LG wall? Was it LG
This
or
was
Samsung?
not LG. I think I do have the LG one next. Let me see. This might be that. So this was a big 3D screen, and I held up some 3D glasses at one point so you could sort of see a little bit of what the effect is like. But these are really big. It doesn't do justice. These are very cool.
And exorbitant prices as well.
Yeah, yeah. And so here was a robot with two screens. It had a big regular screen and on its chest, if you will, and then the face was a different screen with emotions. This is cool. This is a hologram, and again, I tried my best to capture it in 2D, but this is straight out of Star Wars. I'm going to play that again. I mean, it really looked cool, at least from the right angle. Right? There's nothing behind it. You can see through it.
So if you're standing in front of that, it looks like a three-dimensional.
Yeah.
Oops.
Very cool.
There's a name for that. It's an old magician's trick done with mirrors. I never remember the
Yeah, we just
guy that invented it.
just got back from Disney World, and that's how they do the Haunted Mansion ride with the ghosts. My daughter and I were in the Doom buggies, and she's like, "How do they do that?" I said, "Those mannequins are swirling around right below us, and there's a mirror at an angle, and that's what we're seeing. That's very cool." No, so the hologram is pre-recorded. It's the same thing for everybody. Good question, but it's yeah. I mean that's. And that's again from a cell phone watching it. So
Pepper's Ghost. That's the name of it.
yeah, right. So this is cool. This is just a sphere, and they've got a projector that's shooting straight up out of the bottom, and the image, the video that we're watching, is using CGI mapped to this three-dimensional canvas, and
That's no moon.
obviously I'm from Rochester, so I wanted to check out Kodak. They actually had a big presence. They had like 3 different booths that were all pretty big. They had some instant cameras, printers, and projectors, but they surprised everybody with this Bitcoin mining machine that you see that seemed a little far-fetched, but it boosted their stock by over 40%. So they did something right, at least for a little while.
In U.S. dollars or in Kodak coins?
Yeah, right. Yeah. So here I am. And a lot of their booth was Rochester themed, so that says downtown Rochester. There's signs for the Eastman House and other Rochester landmarks, and they recreated the moon landing just like they did in the 1960s. Just kidding. Nobody got it? Okay. Get it? Okay. Yeah. All right. So Vuzix is another local company that makes augmented reality glasses, but not just for consumers, but for professional use. You know, you can think of construction workers that can look at something and see what's behind it. And you guys might know that I have a group called App Rochester, and we meet the first Tuesday every month. So the next meeting is May 1st, and the CEO, Paul Travers, the CEO of Vuzix, will be speaking and talking about augmented reality and smart glasses, and have some demos. So check out approchester.com if you want to see that. They had really long lines. Everybody wanted to try them on. Their glasses have Alexa built in again, so it's everywhere. There was, again, a lot of virtual reality, so it's very common to see a lot of green screens and people looking silly.
Anyone have any of the VR sets? The Vive or the
Oculus.
Oculus? No.
Yeah. Yeah. So I have a set here that I got there from a company called Merge, and they have two different things. So they're doing not just virtual reality but also augmented reality, and they sell this. It's sometimes as cheap as $5 at Best Buy, and it's just a foam cube, right? So it's not very expensive for them to make, but it's got unique patterns on every side, and when you use the right app, not even with one of these headsets, but just your phone holding it up, it comes to life, right? So this could be a volcano, all right? So it could be a science experiment, and you can look at it from every angle just by holding your phone in front of this. So it's a very cool thing. I'll leave these things out for you to check out. They also make probably the best consumer virtual reality headset I've seen, because it's really soft. It's you know, you can drop it. You're not going to be worried about it. Good for kids. They even make a version that's smaller for kids, smaller frame. But for people like me who wear glasses, there's these adjustable knobs, so I can move the lenses that are in here out. Just so I don't necessarily need my glasses when I wear it. But pretty cool. And not expensive. Merge is the company, MERGE, and only like $25, I think. So, you know, not bad. Okay. So, oh, in fact, there's the slide. So those are the goggles, and on the right, I got to play this at the show too. This is, I'm not an advocate of guns, but this was a cool game. Again, with the soft material, you put your phone in it, and you use augmented reality. So you walk around, you look around, you see aliens, and you shoot them, and it has 6 degrees of freedom. So it's pretty powerful. Again, augmented reality and virtual reality. There was a company called the Story Company, spelled S-T-O-R-E-Y, and they have a book that's available in Walmart that, with your phone again holding it up, you hold it up over the pages, and the story is spoken and comes to life, and the characters in it move, and it's animated and everything. And then they also sell it as a virtual reality version with a cheap set of goggles that comes with it, and you can just sort of be in the world of the book. So it's very affordable, again, all around $20.
When I was a kid, they had custom books where you sent in children's names and toys and whatnot, and they print you a custom book.
Yeah. Right. Right.
Like with orthogonal axes, 3 degrees of freedom you can move around. Where do we get 3 more, and what's that?
I don't know. That's what they call it. But
Well, I think forward and back is 2, up and down is 4, left and right is 6.
yeah. But I don't know. I still think that's 3. That's
Yeah.
It's vertical, right?
Yeah.
But yeah. Oh, this was cool, and my daughter just got on the lacrosse team, so she was interested in this. This couple, it's actually their granddaughter's invention. It's a heated lacrosse stick.
Ooh,
So
they
if
need
you-
that out there on the field now.
Exactly. If you play lacrosse and you use it barehanded, you get cold. And the stick is cold, it's metal. So this 14-year-old girl, she's now 18, but she came up with this idea and got it made, and she was on TV and everything. she had to go to college, so her grandparents stepped in and manned the booth at CES. So that was pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, smart idea, and it just uses USB and charges. So yeah. Smarter charging, right? So I mentioned wireless charging. That's all the rage, and everywhere you go in my house, there's a smart charger. I just put my phone down, and now everybody in my house has an iPhone 8 or above. So trying to get rid of those charging docks. But so now, how do companies distinguish themselves? Using fabrics and materials like you see that's actual marble, you know. So they're trying to be more stylish about this. You can go to IKEA now and get furniture with wireless chargers built right in. So it's you know, all the wires are hidden, so it's nice.
Are systems all compatible with each other?
That's the good news is, you know, I've been going to these for a long time, and there were competing standards. Duracell bought a company called PowerMat. They had their own standard, and certain cars, Chevrolet, Chevy Bolt, had PowerMat, but that only worked with that standard. And then this Qi, it's pronounced Qi, but it's QI, standard came out, and a lot of the Android phones embraced that. And the good news is Apple embraced it. So now Apple and Android all use the Qi standard, and that's why you're seeing these chargers proliferate. Good question. You need the 8, 8S, or 8, 8 Plus, or the 10. And there are adapters. I've had Qi adapters for a while for the older phones. They have a lightning port and a very slim receiver, and it goes under your case. So it is possible to make an older phone Qi, but it blocks the lightning port. Here was another, this was really cool, another smart charging mechanism. This is called PowerCast, and this actually transmits power, kind of like Nikolai Tesla predicted. And the further you get, the less power you get, but you don't need to put your phone on a special charging pad. You just put it within a foot or two of this thing, and it charges it. So this could be really cool. If you had this in the back of your desk, all your wireless keyboard, your mouse, your phone, everything would just be charged, even your lights. Yeah. How's that work with pacemakers? If you stand far enough back, you're very all right. No, I mean, that's a legitimate concern. But this is proof of concept stuff.
And one of the things they say, it's a little misnomer, wireless charging, you still have to set the two things to physically touch. You don't plug a wire in to make it charge. The companies are working on distance wireless charging.
So that's what this is.
Yeah.
So this is just, you know, as long as you're in the proximity.
Yep.
And the gentlemen, the people who were displaying this, they all had, it was a very smart thing, they all had a little tag with an LED on it. And you could see they walk around, and when they got within proximity of a charger, it would charge.
Some of the electric car, probably most of them electric car companies are working on similar things that can be set up along the road so you can recharge your electric car while you're driving.
Yeah. All right. This was pretty cool. I went to a whole Chinese pavilion group, and they came up with this. Anybody fan of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? There's something called a babblefish, and it's a little fish that you put in your ear, and it understands every language and speaks to you in your language, and vice versa. So, yeah, I mean, it's a fictional thing, but these guys came up with it, which is 2 earbuds. I wear mine, you wear yours, you speak Chinese, I speak English, and it works. Yeah, and it's all done through the phone, and so there's a bit of a lag, but still pretty cool.
Google has a similar thing, but from the reports I read, it didn't work very well.
This was cool. This is an Israeli company. You guys are all familiar with K-cups. You know, you get your coffee, plus you put it in a thing. This is the same thing for aromatherapy. So you want to pretend you're at the beach, you plug in a little beach K-cup, smell cup or whatever. It makes it smell like the beach. And so they have 4 different ones, and you can put them on random, you know, and so you don't get nose blind, and neat idea.
Mix and match and make some disgusting smells?
Yeah, probably. So this was interesting. This was Li-Fi. So you all know Wi-Fi. You transmit internet wirelessly. This transmits it by light. So it requires a line of sight. But again, they showed a MacBook, and as they brought it within view of this lamp, it was connected to the internet. And as they moved it away, it was not. Right? So the advantages there's a lot of advantages. You're worried about radiation. There's none. It's just line of sight, light. And if you're worried about security, that data is only between those 2 points. And somebody in a car parked outside your building can't snoop into it. So interesting. This is cool. This lady invented this photo album that as you turn the pages, there's a video player, and it knows what page you're on, it knows what trip you're looking at, and it plays the video from that trip. And as you again turn the page, it's smart enough to know that's a different trip, a different scene, and plays a different video. So again, this is not a product. She was trying to get Canon or somebody else to buy this and productize it.
For all the people that still like printed photo books.
Yeah. Yeah, my wife does. Transportation. So I'm excited for the weather to get better. I have a motorcycle or scooter. There were a lot of devices on 3 wheels. The advantage to a 3-wheel car for these companies is they don't have to conform to the safety tests that a 4-wheel car does. The disadvantage is you need a motorcycle license in most states to drive them, but they don't have to crash these at the Insurance Protection Safety Board or whatever, so they can be a startup a lot more affordably. So there were some 3-wheel ones, some 2-wheel ones, 2-wheel scooters. Yeah, these were cute. And then there was even a 1-wheel device. And I actually saw somebody on the road yesterday, or on the sidewalk, on a 1-wheeled Segway, like powered unicycle. Where was that? No, honestly, I think it must have been in Orlando when I was in Disney. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of the tourist areas have Segway tours where you rent a Segway and go around.
All right, but here was my favorite. This is no wheels. So drones are really big. Well, here's a really big drone. This is a 1 or I think 2-person drone. Basically a helicopter on the bottom and a drone propellers on the top. And obviously it was in a tent. They weren't given rides. It was just kind of for show, but that could be the flying car we've all been promised. No, it was just there for show because it wasn't. You couldn't go up. Yeah, but there were a few actually like that. This you can actually get at Best Buy now. It's $150, but my wife really likes her tea to be a certain temperature, and as soon as it gets cold, she wants to heat it up again. So this device, either the mug or the cup version, will keep your drink at a specific temperature, and you can control it by app using Bluetooth, or the bigger device you can rotate the dial and you see the temperature to keep it at. It's battery USB rechargeable. Yeah. Yeah. It'll keep it at that temperature, whatever you choose. Yeah, $150 for the mug, but for the the thermos. I think only about $80 for the cup, but doesn't have the display or you have to by the app. This was really cool for my youngest. She loves to do her nails, and they had a machine that you stick your finger in, and you use your phone and you send a photo to it, and it prints that photo on your nail. Right? So it can be a photo, it can be a pattern, it could be your favorite sports team, what have you, and you can do it on fake nails that you then apply as well. So, I told her, stop with the lemonade stand, get one of these.
Yep.
Charge your friends $10, $1 a finger, and pay for itself. So we'll see.
Micah Sargent from iMore shot a little video of this, and he had a hard time convincing the demonstrator there that a guy wanted to put a picture on his thumb. Yeah, no, it's okay. So he had a little Chihuahua. He's a big Chihuahua fan, and so he shot a video of him getting a Chihuahua printed on his fingernail.
Nice. No, it's precise, but it's just, you know, it's
Well, and then they put a clear coat down over top of it. Yeah.
Raspberry Pis are pretty cool if anyone's familiar with that little tiny computer device. Here's a company that took these little tiny computers and put them all together to make a big cluster of Raspberry Pis. Even toilets. Every time I go, people are like, "Oh, show me, the Alexa-powered toilet." Well, this wasn't exactly Alexa-powered, but it's pretty smart about how it uses water and things like that. So everything's getting smarter.
The problem there is when the power goes out, it quits working. Last week at the windstorm, the radio station lost power, and they have the auto sensor self-flushing toilet, and it doesn't work when there's no power. There's no manual flush button.
Anybody watch that Last Man on Earth TV show with Will Forte, right? So there's no there's no flushing, so they just use swimming pools and cut a hole in the diving board, and then they just move on to the next house when it gets full. So stormtroopers, there were Star Wars robots, and when there's a stormtrooper, there's probably R2-D2. That's not R2-D2. That was just a vacuum cleaner, but I thought I'd see if you're paying attention. There were celebrities, so Monster always has a cool press conference, so I got to see Iggy Azalea and Joe Perry from Aerosmith, the guitarist. So that was pretty cool. They all both had branded stereo speakers or headphones. And this was right before the Super Bowl, so they were filming a Super Bowl commercial. I don't know if anyone saw the... and that's Noel Lee. You see him, he looks taller. He's actually on a Segway. He has a knee problem, and he uses Segway all the time, year after year. And that was my presentation. So I do have some show and tell.
Oops.
I can bring up, I did have a link to my website. So I've already written about a number of products already, so you can go to that website or just go to iPhoneLife.com and search for my name. And like I said, come to the picnic in July, and you'll be able to bid on a lot of these at pennies on the dollar. So I will bring that up while I show off a few of these things. Oh, thank you.
Are we done? Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Now part two.
yeah. So, you still see the screen?
Yep. Mhm.
Okay. So this was really cool. So these speakers are so small; they're the size of, I don't know, like a plum, and they're separate, and you can put them around and achieve surround sound from these tiny little speakers, and it was very impressive at the show. And they're only $40. I really recommended those. Even at the noisy show, they put on a good sound. Now, Energizer, we talked a lot about wireless charging and so on. Energizer, this should be their business. They've been sort of dormant for a while. It's been companies like Mophie and others that have taken over, but they've come out with some really cool power packs that, like this right here has 1, 2, 3, 4 USB ports, but it's also a battery, right? So whenever I go on a trip, I have to charge my phone, my tablet, my watch, maybe my headphones, and so there's 4 devices right there. And so you can bring a portable battery pack, you can bring a wall outlet, maybe with 2, 3, or 4 ports, but now you can have one thing. So at night, it's charging all the 4 of those devices plus itself, and then during the day, if I'm at a trade show, I can take the entire battery pack, put it in my jacket pocket or something, and it's there to recharge anything. So all in one is key.
We did notice on our last trip that a lot of the hotels now have USB ports in the bedside lamps. We always used to have to unplug the clock to plug the charger in.
Right. In fact, there was a clock there from Jack Tramiel's grandson. Jack Tramiel started Commodore or Atari. I think he worked for Nolan Bushnell, whatever. So I met him, and I met him 2 years ago, and they gave me the clock. It's a Sandman clock, and it has 4 USB ports. I said, you got to get these into hotels, because that's what people need. It's got a really big display and 4 USB ports. This actually has 4 USB ports and a USB-C port, which will charge a MacBook or newer Android, so that's nice. I'm not going to go over all these here. There's a lot of smartphones or smart speakers coming out that do Alexa, but are not from Amazon. So Amazon has licensed that. So you can, this is only $65, and it competes with Amazon's $100 version. Pop sockets was there. My kids love those. This was cool. There's a company called Orange Audio, like Original Audio, and they make a set of wireless earbuds like the Apple AirPods, but really small, like in the movie Her, that they just fit in your ear and you don't see them. And they charge in this, which looks like a Zippo lighter, right? So you carry these little earbuds around in your Zippo lighter case, and then the Zippo lighter case plugs into the wall to charge it. And it also has a USB port to charge anything. That was cool. This is cool. I do have this right here. So you guys are all familiar with Velcro. I'll pass this around because this is magical. So this is just this cloth. It's a protective kind of chamois cloth, and you could put your iPad or iPad mini or your phone in it, or in my case a lock that I'll talk about. So you put it in there and it sort of folds into itself, but it sticks to itself. Velcro, but it's not abrasive. So you take a look at it, pass it around. And it comes in different colors and patterns, and it's quite reasonable. $16, different sizes, and it's really cool how it attaches to itself without being abrasive. All right, and so this is what was in there. I love Touch ID on my phone.
Oh, neat.
Yeah. So this is a padlock that, I'll put it under the test. It just opened with my finger. Isn't that great? You can also use your phone to unlock it, but this would be good for, if I forget my code or whatever. It's supposed to last about 6 months, so that would be my concern, is that what if I forget to unlock it? And it does, I forget to charge it. It does have a charging pad on the outside, so if you have the cable and you forget to, you could charge it for a few seconds, I guess, to get back in. It's very heavy duty and very heavy, but that's pretty cool. Well, see, if it had a standard port, and that's what I wrote about it, is I wish it had. So there's some competitors to this, or other versions that are much bigger, like for your door, right? And they have a standard 9-volt adapter. So if you just took a 9-volt battery from the store and stuck it on the bottom of like my Schlage front door lock, it gives it enough battery to get into the house, right? So that's something I would like to see with this. Yeah, for a shed. Yeah. This is cool. I actually brought this. Did they have any? Ring is established, but did they have any competitors? Oh gosh, yeah. So Ring is established. They just got bought by Amazon. I do have a Ring, the Ring video doorbell. They also make cameras, solar-powered cameras and all that. So Amazon, of course, wants to make it possible for you to get deliveries. Open your door, and the camera make sure it's the right person, and all that. So it's a smart play for them. Yeah, Google Nest, they have competing versions, so it's pretty popular. So this is sometimes my favorite things at CES are the things that don't have any electricity, right? That they're just there to make your life with computers better. And so one of the hassles with the iPhone is that it doesn't have a headphone jack, right? So I have to carry around this little tiny cable that I know I'm going to lose. It's only $10, and I'm not worried about the money, but it's when I need it to not have it is a problem. And also your cables get frayed and so on. So they came up with this little rubber device, that you plug that cable into. So my headphone jacks go here. This goes into the bottom of my phone, and it's less likely to lose because it's it's more substantial, but it also puts no strain on either of the ends. So that's kind of smart. And only I don't know, $10. Yeah. This
I was at Target yesterday and saw a little what looked like a gramophone with one of the big cone speakers, and it was an iPhone speaker. And you set your iPhone in it, and it magnifies the sound to do a loud iPhone speaker. It was really cool.
Acoustically, because it just takes the sound out of the bottom of the phone and magnifies out. Yeah. So this is really cool, and I deal with a lot of nonverbal, hard of hearing folks at RIT. I'm going to give them a shot to try this. But this, as you'll notice, it does not cover my ears. I do not listen to music with this through my ears. I listen through my cheekbones. It gets transmitted through my head. And a coworker of mine, her father has this, and he's deaf in one ear, and he can now hear music in stereo, and he's thrilled. So, first of all, they're extremely lightweight. I wear them with glasses. It's no big deal. I don't like things in my ears. These are not in my ears. And it's titanium, so you can bend it, and it'll stay in shape. It's not cheap. They're about $100 to $150, or $180, but sometimes on sale. But really, really well done. So it is Bluetooth. Yeah. So.
I remember probably a decade ago a bone conduction speaker that wrapped around your neck like a scarf. And then there was one that had built into a jacket, so you put the jacket on, and then only you can hear it.
Right.
So you can have it as loud as you want. But if someone touches you, then they can hear a little bit because it then start rattling their bones.
It's also good for bicyclists because you're not blocking your ears, so you can hear if a car is beeping at you, and so that's important. All right, some other earbuds. Yeah. And these. Yeah. Yeah.
There's a coming convergence in hearing aids and Bluetooth audio that a lot of the hearing aids now are Bluetooth, but the hearing aids are optimized for speech, so listening to music on them isn't very good. So we're seeing some new technology is being shown here and there. You might even seen something at CES.
Yeah, we gave it the award a couple years ago from Resound, and my mom actually uses it as her hearing aid. So she goes into her phone and says, "Oh, I'm in a theater, or I'm in the car," and it adjusts it for a different environment. So yeah, and she can use it as a phone headset, make phone calls. So first time she did it, I thought she was crazy, because she's driving I'm driving her. She's sitting in my car, and she starts talking to somebody else, and I'm like, "Mom, what's going on?" And she was on the phone with somebody else, but I didn't put two and two together. I can have just about any case I want in the world because they send me cases by the boxes, but I use Catalyst case right here. I'm not using the waterproof version, but because that just has a cover on it, I'd rather use the screen. But the iPhone 8 is waterproof anyway. It's just not waterproof to 10 meters like this case makes it. So, but my daughter does use this waterproof version because she has a 10, and I don't want her to ruin it. So it's very slim but still waterproof. This was really cool. I actually made a video from the show floor at CES with this. It's a wireless microphone, and then this device that plugs into the lightning port of your iPhone, and so you can get high quality audio even in a noisy place like CES. I was able to take this and a selfie stick and report from the show floor.
Samsung has done quite a few of these devices over the years, self-contained, and it's kind of neat. It's getting smaller. It used to be shoebox size, and now they're getting smaller and smaller.
Yep. Speaking of selfie stick, this company has a shutter grip that it's a clamp onto your smartphone, so you can then put it on a tripod or any selfie stick usually, and then that little gray part you see there slips off, and that's your Bluetooth remote. So you can set it out and then start recording a video or take a snapshot with that remote. So that's nice. This is a speaker that it doesn't look as big as it is in this picture, but it's bigger than this thing, and really powerful, really cool. If you're going to get a speaker for your home, why not make it look cool? And this was very cool. This is a cool company I saw 2 years ago. They came out with this, but it was expensive. Now it's better and more compact. But it's this revolver, and it's got 3 different lenses that slide into that circular case for iPhone 10 or iPhone 8. So if you want to do special effects, you can do that. And then that little round piece, it's magnetically attached, so you can take it on or off. So your phone can be compact, and when you want it, you can have all those lenses. All right, I think that's about it from CES that I wrote about already or that's been published. I have a few things here. Who has an Apple Watch? Anybody? Okay. The thing I don't like about my Apple Watch, in fact, I just gave it to my daughter yesterday. I said I'm done. Is that I have to charge it every day or so, right? So here is a smartwatch company. It's called WeLoop, W-E Loop, and it lasts about a month. Obviously, it doesn't do everything your smartwatch does, but it does a lot of it. It's good for for activities, notifications, and so I think there's room for improvement. I replaced my watch with the Batman smartwatch, and it's a real grown-up smartwatch, but it's got Batman as its theme, and they have a flash version as well. It's about $150. I got it for $105 on sale, and so far I like it. It plays the Batman theme when you get a notice and stuff like that from the TV show. We mentioned pop sockets. Here's a pop socket for your iPad. So it's a bigger surface. So it's like this big, and then the part that you stick your fingers in is smaller. But that was smart, I'm more worried about holding my iPad at a trade show to be able to demo it. So that's nice. It's hard to get excited about a charging pack, but here's a power pack that has Tile built in. So Tile is one of those Bluetooth trackers, right? So you can track your luggage, your purse, your wallet, what have you. So why not track your power pack? And then, of course, if your power pack is in your gadget bag, you're able to track your gadget bag. So that was a nice example of convergence. There was a company that specialized in products for the blind, and everybody could benefit from this, blind or not. It's a USB cord that on the USB side is reversible, so you'd never have to worry about plugging it in right or wrong, which if you can't see, that's a big deal. And the other side, the micro USB, is also reversible. So you can plug it in either way, on either end.
That's why it's been the joke about USBs. You try it one way, it doesn't work. So you try it the other way, and it doesn't work. You try it the third way, and it works.
Yeah. So it's hard to get excited by cables, but these companies managed to do that. Here's one that just arrived. I just submitted the review, but it's not live yet. It's just, it's a cable. It's nicely made. It's woven with fabric. Good size. Nice small tips that are going to fit in even a rugged case, and they're aluminum at the end, so they're not going to fray. But what's really cool is right in the middle of this is another lightning port. So I can plug this into my iPhone, and then I could plug the lightning earbuds into this, so I can be charging my phone and listening to music or making a phone call at the same time. So simple idea like that, but it's kind of almost how it should have been. This just came. I'll only do a couple more, and then if people want to see these during the break, they can. This is, where I live. There's a traffic light, and so I have darkening shades, but it never seems to be dark enough. So this is an eye mask, nice velour or velvet fabric that you can take off and wash it, and memory foam inside it. But it's also they have a Bluetooth version, or this is an audio jack version, and you can listen to music. So you can fall asleep to music and cover your eyes and fall asleep. So that's nice. I won't show everything, but this was the one thing that, quite honestly, I bought. Right? I see so many things at CES, and they send me most of it for free. I'm very fortunate. This, I said, I got to buy this, and I couldn't wait. But this, anybody know what this is? You should know. This is it's called a gimbal. A gimbal. So think of a selfie stick that Steven Spielberg would use, right? So you stick your phone in here, horizontally or landscape or portrait, and there's an app. It's made by DJI, the drone, the people who make the Phantom drone for $1,000. So this, I can use this joystick and control it, and it keeps it level. If I do horizontally or vertically, it keeps it level, smooth. If my hand shakes, it keeps it level. And then what's really cool is that it can track your face. So I can use the app, click on your face, and then you get up and walk around the room. I hold my hand still, and it follows you. It's very smooth, very cool, and only $129. It replaces their first generation that was $199. So that was $199. This is $129. It's sold in Best Buy, or it's available for pre-order in Best Buy.
Oh, Apple says it's exclusive to Apple.
Because they have it's a different color version.
Ah.
Yeah, that's what they do. So
Yeah.
it's really a very cool thing for videographers. We already filmed a April Fool's commercial with it for the company I work for, Cloud Checker. But so this was really cool. And again, I'll let people look at these during the break, but that's really it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, we'll take about a 10-minute, 15-minute break or so. We've got some refreshments out in the hallway, thanks to my wife, Shirley. I can take any memberships if anyone's interested, and we'll see you all back shortly. All right. So let's, yeah. We'll get started back again. We're going to do a drawing. Must be present to win, so your chances all just got better. Anyone not signed up? All right. Random number between 1 and 14. Random number generator. Between 1 and 14, I want one number. Go. 4. Hey, George. Now, we often recommend people use iTunes gift cards for their iTunes account instead of putting a real credit card on it, in case there's a theft or you have grandchildren that figure out your password or figure out they can touch your sleeping thumb to the phone and order anything they want. So, you know, a $20 iTunes card gives them a max value rather than being able to run up your entire credit card. It also helps protect your identity too. We've heard stories of kids that have rung up multi-$1,000 credit card bills because they either know mom's password or figure out how to get into it. And then someone tried to start a class action lawsuit against Apple for allowing kids to spend money. Well, it's your own damn fault. And then, was it a year or two ago, the first Christmas, the Amazon device was popular. There were stories about a kid that had said, you know, Amazon, I want a dollhouse, and a dollhouse showed up. And then in the news story, where the local news people were talking about it, he said the phrase, and hundreds of other people called in and said, you made my Amazon order a dollhouse? You can set the Amazon, one of Amazon features is one-click ordering. So you click a button and it just orders it. Turn that off on your Amazon device. And then there were stories about sleeping parents and the kids figured out how to touch the thumbprint. With the iPhone 10 and face recognition, there's a feature you can turn on or off called, what do they call it? Attention, I think. So you have to have your eyes open and looking at the phone for the face to unlock. But if you turn that off, it means you can unlock your phone a little faster and you know, at an angle a little more maybe. It also means that you know, your sleeping kid, your kid can hold your phone up to your sleeping face and unlock it to order stuff. Yeah. So yeah, that's the other solution. Don't have kids. All right, we had a question before the meeting started about the glowing Apple logo on the back of the computers. And it actually, I think it was 2015, the first MacBook 12-inch that came out that didn't have a glowing logo on it. Partly because the screen is so thin, there isn't enough circuitry to have a light facing the other way. I figure they could have figured out some way to do it. One of the stories that I read was that it was Tim Cook just wanted to kill it. He didn't. And while I was researching this, there were a lot of complaints about how do I turn the logo off. So in a dark room, you have all those glowing logos at you. And oftentimes you see pictures of like trade shows or meetings or things like that, and you can see all the glowing Apple logos. So I can see arguments one way or the other. I did find a company called Slick Wraps that makes a glow-in-the-dark Apple logo that you can get in different colors and for phones and computers. And it's a 3-pack is $5. I may have to get one of these because I missed the glowing Apple logo. Yeah. And then we had mentioned that in the earliest Macs, the Apple logo looked like it was upside down when you were looking at it from behind because it was right side up when you looked at it from the front. And that was so when it's on camera, the Apple logo is right side up. And that came out during a famous trial where the judge's computer was on screen all day long, on the TV all day long, and the logo was upside down, so they fixed that. It looks like it, yeah. Blue, kind of an orange, and kind of a green. I kind of like the blue myself. Yeah. I wonder if They're all the same color. I guess you can't order one of each color. Well, that sort of makes sense because then you'll pay them more to get a 3-pack of each color. There's some of what it looks like. The same Slick Wrap company also sells these skin type things too, so you can skin it and then put a logo on it. Yep. Yeah, for years the Apple products have come with Apple decals. In the early days, they were the 6-color Apple logo, and then Apple switched to a plain white or plain black. I got it on my 2 devices, but every now and then I'm getting an interrupted. And so a lot of people longtime Mac users were mad and upset that we lost the 6-color logo. And Jason Snell, former Macworld editor, now runs his own website called 6colors.com because the story in the early days was a true Mac user bled in 6 colors. And so he still uses that. Let me see if I can find... Anyone have a really old Apple device with them with the Apple 6-color logo? There it is. It is just you. No. Actually, a lot of people don't realize that wasn't Apple's first logo. Ron Wayne, the sort of third silent partner we don't hear too much about, actually sketched in and sketched the original Apple logo. Let's see if that comes down in a higher quality. And it was Newton sitting under a tree and with the whole Apple computer. They realized when they were trying to start make packaging that they couldn't print anything like that in '76 and '77. So then they went to the Apple 6-color logo with a byte taken out of it. And I read stories about customers that come back to customer service and say that every time I turn my computer on, there's a byte out of the logo. Is it broken? Part of the logo is missing. Is my computer broken? And then in addition to the logo not lighting up, on the newest computers with the touch bar, the chime, when it turns on, has been turned off. So it doesn't chime anymore when you turn it on. That was a big deal for a lot of people in, again, businesses and college meetings and whatnot. If your computer, you have to boot your computer, that really loud chime goes out. Then for a while, your volume on your computer would adjust the startup chime. So if you have your volume really low on your computer, the startup chime would be really low. There was a tip in the early days to just plug a headphone jack into the headphone port so the chime couldn't sound. But now it doesn't do the auto chime. And there's also something called auto boot. When you open the lid, it automatically turns on. You don't have to push the button anymore, which is a little annoying when we're trying to service computers. So we open it up to pull something out, and it turns itself on. So we're supposed to turn that off. There are terminal commands where you can turn off the auto boot, and you can turn on the boot chime if you do want that stuff back. Alrighty. Anyone have a question? Charlie has a few, and then Rick has a few. It looks like. So the basic question is he was setting up his new computer, and connected to his cellular hotspot, and it didn't ask for the password he expected it to ask for. Right. So you have found a feature in the Apple. Yep. That feature is called the iCloud Keychain. So the keychain is a feature in the Mac that stores your passwords for you. And in your utilities folder, there is a utility called Keychain Access. So if we go to the Go menu and choose Utilities, if I go down to the K's, Keychain Access, that will show you all the passwords that you've saved in your computer. So typically that you go to a website and log in to Amazon or log into Citibank, it will ask if you want to save that password in your computer. And you can say yes. Then it saves it for you so you don't have to type it again. All of these passwords are saved under your computer's administrator password. So that's the one password you can't forget, is your admin password. And if you ever forget one of your passwords, you can go to your keychain and say, show the password. And I'll type in my computer password to prove this is really me looking. And it's, whatever server that is, the password was server. So, keychain has been around for a long time. You're using it even if you don't realize it. And so if you look at your keychain, you're going to find all the passwords that you've saved. And a few versions ago, Apple added iCloud Keychain. So now your keychain and passwords get synced between all your devices. So on your previous computer and on your phone or iPad, you have typed in the password for your hotspot. That went to iCloud Keychain, which then came down to your new computer because you signed into iCloud. And so that's how it knew that password and didn't have to ask for it. Right. So there's another feature with newer Apple devices, iOS 11 and 10.13, I think, on the Mac, that when you're setting up a brand new device and you have an existing device, it will ask if you want to copy all the settings from the other device. And that gets your iCloud username and password. I think it grabs your email address and password and sets up all this stuff because the other device already knows it. Probably. And I think that's the default unless you click a Configure Manually button. So it uses the information on the other nearby device that's already logged in with your account credentials. Correct. Yeah, no one else can get that password unless you share it with them. Right. When you first turn on your computer and you put in your username, and then it will ask for your Apple ID and password, then it starts syncing all your data from iCloud. There is also a feature available now for people near each other. So if you didn't have the Wi-Fi password here, my phone would pop up and say, do you want to share the password to Charlie? And I could say yes or no. So they've added the ability to share, but the person that has the information has to say yes. I don't know. It's part of the continuity service and the new automatic setup service. I don't know what that specific feature is called, but you can share a password. So that happened at Dorinda's house the other day when we went for Easter. Rick didn't have the new password for her Wi-Fi, and so I think it was my iPad popped up and said, "Do you want to share the password?" And I said, "Okay." So it always the person that has the knowledge has to say yes. Because that's the privacy way. You have the knowledge. You have to say yes. Share it. The other thing that comes in with new computers is there's some questions that are on by default that are a little annoying in my opinion as a service provider. One of them is that file vault encryption is turned on by default. unless you uncheck the box. And so what File Vault does is encrypt all the data on your computer with your password. And that means that if someone physically gets your computer and pulls the hard drive out, they still can't get your data because it's encrypted. It also makes the computer run a little bit slower because it has to decrypt the data when it opens the file and re-encrypt it when it closes it. It's not as big a deal on new computers with the fast processors and the SSDs, but if you load, I think they started this in 10.11 or 10.12, automatically turning File Vault on. If you load that onto an older computer with a spinning hard drive, it can actually slow your hard drive down. You can check your File Vault settings in System Preferences under Security and Privacy, and then File Vault. So right now, File Vault is turned off for my disk. From a service standpoint, File Vault is tricky because it makes recovering your data harder. So all the data is stored on your drive as a random blob of noise, and your password turns that noise into a file. If there's a bit failure or a file gets corrupted, it's still and will remain forever a random blob of noise. If you forget your password, it's a random blob of noise. So it makes having a good backup really, really important as well. Now for medical and legal, there are certain professions where having an encrypted hard drive would make sense. But for the general public, not really. But Apple is really pushing privacy as one of their key selling points. And especially with the leaks, the Snowden leaks that showed that the NSA was spying on everybody, all data on the internet was getting spied upon. They've really started pushing for more security. And we're hearing, I'll get to you in a second, George, because Rick is next. We're hearing in other countries, in fact, Russia, was it last week? Other countries are requiring companies to turn over their encryption keys to the government. And in Russia, it was even worse. You don't even need a warrant. And they're specifically targeting the messaging service Telegram, which is one of the most secure messaging platforms, end-to-end encryption. The Telegram company doesn't even hold the keys. The keys are generated on each device. So we don't know how they're going to comply with the order. They're probably not going to be able to. So they've been ordered to turn. So if the FSB asks for an encryption key on anybody's phone in Russia, Telegram has to turn it over. And the same thing has happened with Apple, most famously in the San Bernardino shooting case, where the FBI wanted Apple to unlock the phone. We can't. We don't have the keys. The keys are on the phone. If you hadn't have changed the password, we could have helped you, but you changed the password and screwed everything else up. So there is a lot of fear that governments are going to require companies to turn over encryption keys and maintain a set of encryption keys so they can unlock all your data even when it's encrypted. And the ACLU and what's the Electronic Frontier Foundation, EFF, are vehemently opposed to that on privacy rules. So we'll have to see how that happens. Rick. A little of both. So the question is about secure notes in the keychain. So the keychain can store more than passwords. It also stores your security certificates. So when you go to a website, there's a certificate to prove that website is who they are. It's not very good at cleaning expired certificates out. But the other thing you can do is make a secure note. And so I'm going to hit the plus button here, and I'm going to make a new secure note. Secure note, and I'm going to put in some text. Jumps over the lazy dog. So now this note is added and in my encrypted secure notes. So if I want to go back and see what this note is, I have to put my password in. The problem becomes, so when you type the password, you can say to allow this password once or always allow every time this note is opened. For the best security and privacy, you just say allow once. So I'm going to put in my password and type allow. Now I can see the note. It will automatically lock itself after a little bit of time. Because basically they don't want you getting up from the computer while the secure is showing or someone looking over your shoulder like that. So it will lock itself in a few moments. I don't know if there's a way to change the time on how long it locks itself. Yeah, so if I type it again, I have to type the password again. If you type always allow, then anytime you click the show note, it will show you the note. Right, because then that means anyone else who sits down at your computer can see the note. Especially on a laptop, one of the things we like to turn on, again in that security preference, is to require a password for sleep or screensaver. So if you get up, because laptops tend to go places, so you're at the coffee shop and you get up and walk up to the counter to get a refill, in that 10, 15, 20 seconds, someone could sit down at your computer, make themselves a username, and theoretically get into your stuff. So requiring a password is a handy thing to do. And I usually set mine for 5 seconds because I'll be reading and my screensaver goes off and then I have to type the password again immediately. So it's 5 seconds after my screensaver begins. The companion setting to that is how long your screensaver before it starts. Now, since this is a presentation computer, I've got the screensaver to start never. But 1 to 5 minutes, so you have it fairly quickly, so that you get that protection of the password. Or what I've done is I've set a hot corner. So when I move my cursor into the upper right corner, it will immediately start the screensaver. So as soon as if I want to get up and go somewhere, I'll just zip the cursor up to the right corner, and now the screensaver will start. And now I got to wait 5 seconds to get the password. So if I go, okay, and then I move the cursor again, now I have to type my password. Or since I have the Touch ID, I can use that. And then I also have a button or a hot corner to disable the screensaver, so that the screensaver never starts. So if I want to keep doing something, but I've sort of overridden that with my never start. It's always interesting during a presentation. So while I wasn't doing anything on this computer when Todd was doing his presentation, the screensaver would have turned on because it was technically idle because I wasn't doing anything. So that's why I've got that screensaver set to never. Let's see if Google has anything about Mac keychain note auto lock, when it times out, and when it if you can change that timeout. Well, it's someone's asked that question in 2006, so this has been a ongoing question. I have never seen a let me look in preferences. I've never seen an option for auto locking and setting a time for auto lock. Nothing there. Let's go to passwords. No, it's the same. There used to be an option to show a menu icon so you could lock and unlock your keychain. But I don't even see that anymore. How about time? Nope, nothing in the keychain help. So I think, Rick, the short answer is there isn't a time. The other thing now, in the Apple Notes application itself, if you use a iCloud account, then your notes can be encrypted as well. So you can encrypt all of the notes, Yeah, you can lock. You can have all your notes locked in the Note app, and you don't need to use the Keychain app anymore. That only works if you're using an Apple-based iCloud ID, Mac.com, Me.com, or iCloud.com. So if you have an ID at like Roadrunner or Frontier, you would need to create an Apple equivalent ID, and the easiest way to do that is to turn on Apple Mail. So then you get an Apple address. If you've started your Apple ID long enough ago, you can use Mac.com. And then when Apple started selling more and more iPods to Windows users, they created the Me.com as part of their mobile Me service because Windows users didn't want to have a Mac email address. And then later on, that transitioned into iCloud. So if you make a new Apple-based email address now, it's iCloud.com. And we generally recommend not using your internet service provider for your main email address or your Apple ID because it makes it hard to change internet providers. So it's kind of like changing your postal address. It's a pain to have to tell everyone your new address. So we like recommending to people get a Google address or get an iCloud address and start transitioning to that. Giving that as your address for new people and changing all the old ones out so that you can eventually switch in ISPs a little easier. Or you can get your own domain for relatively cheaply, at $15 a month or a year for a lot of domains. And then you can have, StephenRay.com, for example. There's a system called Whois where you can look up domains. And one day I was at a customer site and looked up StephenRay.com, and it was available because you can't use a name someone else is already using. When I got home that night, there was an email waiting for me. Would you like to buy StephenRay.com? Yes, so their program recognized that I searched for that address and then must have looked through junk mail lists or email lists, public email lists, to find anyone with that name and sent that email out. Well, that's a mail service. Domains are done by a domain provider. Google does domains. We're using DreamHost at CIDER because they do free nonprofit domains. GoDaddy is a popular domain server. You usually pay a little bit extra for email, but you can do email forwarding. So you could get StephenRay.com, and that forwards to Roadrunner. So if anyone uses your domain name, it just sends it right to Roadrunner. Or and then when you switch ISPs, you can tell it to go to a different ISP. Or if you want to actually get hosted mail, you usually pay a little bit for that. Although Google will give you one address for free. They used to give you 100. They used to do free domain names and 100 email addresses for free. And we at MacAv are grandfathered into that, so we have 100 email addresses. We're using like 5, but we have 100. And then for a while, they changed it where you can only get 10 for free. So some of our customers would only get 10, which is enough for a small business. Then they changed that, so now you only get 1 for free, and you have to pay $5 a month for all the other ones if you want a custom domain. So it's $5 per user per month, which is about the going rate from all the other mail providers too. But Google has really good spam filters, so a lot of people like that for the spam. But POP and IMAP are two different mail protocols. POP is an older protocol. It's probably 40 years old. It's the post office protocol. And that was designed in the early days where you would dial in to the mail server and download all your mail and hang up as soon as you could because you had to pay by the minute. And nowadays, it's much more common to have multiple devices, desktop, laptop, phones, tablets. And so the IMAP protocol, which is maybe 35 years old, is the Internet Mail Access Protocol. And what that does is it leaves the mail on the server and synchronizes between it. So if you're still using POP and you have 2 devices looking at the POP server, one device will get all the mail. Each device gets the new mail. And then it can be set to delete the mail that it just got, so then the other device won't see it. Or you can say don't delete the mail, then you can get the mail on both devices, but then your mailbox fills up and you can't get any more mail, so then you have to go in and manually delete your messages. And the bigger problem is you delete a message on one machine, it doesn't delete it from the other machine. So all of those disadvantages are handled by IMAP, where it synchronizes mail between all your machines. You read it on one, it knows it's read on the other. You delete it on one, it deletes it from the other. Most mail services support IMAP, with an interesting exception is Roadrunner. Roadrunner only does POP, but Time Warner does IMAP. So you can keep your Roadrunner email address, but you can, let me see if I can find it in here to show you. You can use your Roadrunner email address, but you can switch it to mail.twc.com and use IMAP. So then you can synchronize your Roadrunner mail between your devices, which is handy. George.
So with IMAP, I can download my email on all my devices. Is that right?
Yep.
And it'll stay there.
It stays on the server, yep.
No. I want it on my device.
Yeah, it downloads to your device and stays on the device.
So if I do that to all my devices, it comes down to all the devices and stays there until but if I delete it from one, it deletes it from the other?
Yes.
See, I don't want that to happen. That's why I don't want that.
Yeah, so there are some cases where you, yeah. So there are some cases where you may not want to have it auto-delete. The biggest pain we always see is in the junk mail. So you get 100 junk messages you have to delete from your iPad, and you got to delete the same 100 junk messages from your computer and the same 100 junk messages from your phone. So IMAP sort of works on the server as the primary source of the truth, and each device looks up to the server.
Okay, let's say it's downloaded to 3 devices. And so it's on those devices, and you delete it from one of the devices, it deletes it from the server, but then does that delete it from the other
Yeah.
devices?
So the way IMAP works, you delete it on one, the server knows it's deleted, and then the other machines look up to the server and see that message has been deleted and then delete it too. So that's how IMAP works. So that's usually what people like, is delete it everywhere, but sometimes there's cases where you want to keep it on the device and delete it manually. Sure, yep.
I use Touch ID on my iPhone and on my iPad. And it seems like every now and then, out of the blue, it'll require me to type in password. Is there some sort of default that does that, time default or something?
Yes. So the question is basically on Touch ID. Every now and then, you still need to type in the passcode, and the answer is yes, to verify that it's still you. And it's whenever the device restarts, you have to type in the passcode, and then it is 48 hours of non-use. You have to type in the passcode again. No, you cannot change the time. It's part of the security precautions to make sure someone didn't cut your finger off and is using that. Or because Touch ID also has a infrared sensor, it has to be a warm finger. So there have been people that have shown proof of concepts where they get a high enough quality picture of your fingerprint and then can wrap it around a warm thing. You see it in the movies all the time too. I'll put your fingerprint on my thumb, and then when I push the button, it thinks it's you. Yep, it has to be dry. So, but it can be too dry. There have been some people have problems in the winter where their skin gets really dry and the Touch ID quits working. So then you have to have the physical passcode as well. Pardon? Yeah, a lot of TV shows talk about that a lot. Yep. There were some early shows where they'll knock a guard unconscious and then hold their palm print up or open their eye so you can. And then there were some shows where they cut the eye out and use that. But it's we're the biometric data now. Some Android phones have a fingerprint sensor and a Face ID sensor. Some people don't like the fact that the Face ID sometimes gets false positives with close enough looking people. Identical twins, it will always miss because you're identical. Even fraternal twins will sometimes get a match. And there was an interesting case where one journalist, her 12-year-old son, could unlock her phone with his face. Well, it's a kid, your kid, so a lot of your facial features are there. Kids' features haven't finished setting yet. And that was also very early in the Face ID release. The more you use Face ID, the more it trains itself. And you may notice sometimes it fails. And if Face ID fails too many times, then it asks for your code. And then it says, oh, I guess that picture I saw was you. You know, maybe you're wearing your hair a different way, or maybe you got different glasses on. So it learns more and more what you look like every time you use it. All right, Charlie? So there is a setting. So his Apple Watch is ringing, but his phone is not. Some people like it that way. There is a setting somewhere. I don't have a watch, but we can see how it works here. We can go through some of the support documents and see if we can find that. If the phone is unlocked. So this is notification. So that's interesting. So the question was about phone ringing, and the answer is about notifications. Anyone have an Apple Watch and know where that setting is? All right. Let's see what happens here. So no reply. So other people are having the questions. So here's somebody who wants them both to ring, but they're not. So apparently, maybe it is in the notification settings. So on the watch, you have to go into your notification settings. In the Apple Watch app on the iPhone, go to your notification settings, and there should be something in there about rings. Yeah. So mirror the settings will use all the settings on the phone in the iWatch, or you can go through each notification and turn them on and off. So like you want notifications from your messaging app, but you don't need notifications from the game you're playing. So you can turn things on and off as well. You may have Do Not Disturb turned on your phone, so which tells the phone not to ring. So a lot of people are asking about that, and here's someone who wants it to happen. Yeah. So it's interesting that for every feature you're annoyed by, someone else loves it, and the way you want it to happen will annoy somebody else. Customize vibrations. So this is for phone calls. She won't know what to do, and we'll send you to the web. Yeah. Yep. And some of the questions are the other way around. The phone rings and the watch doesn't ring. Force quit all your apps? What does that have to do with making the phone ring? Use a watch when your phone isn't nearby. Is it the Series 3 cellular? That's okay, so it's the watch can't actually answer the call, but it should notify you and it can use the phone if it's nearby. Yeah. It looks so. A lot of people are asking the same question, but I haven't found an actual answer yet. I would almost say unpair and repair the watch to the phone. Okay. So that's the new normal. It's a battery issue. It might be something in the battery settings. You get too many notifications on your watch, and it will lower the battery life. A phone notification is what I'm thinking it might be somewhere. Maybe in the phone app. Alrighty. Another question? Is that two we haven't been able to answer? Sorry. That's going to nag at me too. Why doesn't it work? Yeah. Maybe I'll bring it up on Soundbites on Saturday. Now and then. Mostly Windows. But yeah, it does happen. February 2018, there's a glitch. Is it an iPhone 10? iPhone 10 with Apple Watch. Maybe it was a bug, but that was February. How long has it been happening? So it's probably not this glitch from February. So the accept or decline buttons are missing. Hundreds of customers are complaining about it. Well, they sold 70 million phones. If hundreds of people are having a problem, if it's you, it's horrible, but overall, it's not very much. Alrighty, another question? It's more of the history of the Apple logos. There's 3D and shadows. Yeah, so the question is, his iPad is not recognizing the correct password. It could be the saved password is corrupted. Have you tried rebooting the iPad? Power all the way down, power back on? That's one thing to try. The other thing to try is you go into the network settings where you pick the Wi-Fi network you're connected to. Tap the little I next to the Wi-Fi network and say forget. And then it erases the password file. And then when you type it in again, it will save it, hopefully correctly, the next time. So forget and rejoin the network is often a trick for that. The Extreme is faster than the Express. The Extreme is 802.11 AC, and that can run at 1300 megabit. That's faster, yeah. The Express is only N, which is 300 megabit. But it also depends on what the TV has, too. One of the other features of the AC technology is one called beamforming. So normally Wi-Fi is just a sphere of radio, but what it can do is it can detect where the target machine is, and it can narrow the beam down to a tight beam, which gives you faster performance. and it can also handle multiple devices better because it's got 1,300 megahertz or megabits of bandwidth to share out. I don't know. I don't see any reason why it wouldn't operate on its side, but it's designed to stand tall, so that's probably how the heating and cooling works. That's probably okay. What we expect is the previous versions were low and flat, and what we think happened is too many people would put stuff on top of it, and that blocks the radio signal. Every time you put something on top of the radio, especially if it's metal, it'll block the signal. So they made it tall and skinny so you couldn't use it for anything useful on top. Yes, it has 3 gigabit ports for plugging into wired computers, and then it's got the Ethernet port for plugging into your internet service modem. And there's a USB port, so if you have a USB-only printer, you can plug it in there, and it makes it a Wi-Fi printer. You can also plug a USB hard drive into it, and that becomes then a network hard drive, which is handy for backing up laptops. So you don't have to remember to plug the hard drive in to back up your laptop. You can connect it to a network hard drive, so wherever you are on Wi-Fi, it will still back up your laptop. Apple also sells a version of this with a hard drive built inside called the Airport Time Capsule. There's a 2 terabyte model and a 3 terabyte model. That looks the same on the outside. There's just a hard drive inside of it that you can use for network backup as well. Especially handy on a laptop. We get a lot of customers that come into the shop and haven't realized their backup isn't running, and apparently missed the warning messages or never saw them, and their hard drive has now died. So when you do your backup, you should every now and then go to your backup menu, the time machine menu. In the menu bar has a little clock going backwards. Pull that down, and it will tell you when your last backup was. If there's an error and the backup didn't run, there's an exclamation mark in the icon. If the backup is running, then there's 2 arrowheads, and it will tell you that it's running. So it's not just enough to have a backup. You need to make sure that it's running and current. I think we had, what's our worst? Well, we've had two worst cases. One was someone had started their backup and never let it finish. So your first backup is going to take hours because it's got to back up everything. They never let it finish, and then 4 years later, their hard drive dies, and they come into us, and it says waiting to complete first backup. And then we had a customer who sat down to read the instructions in the backup drive, and her hard drive died. If she'd have just plugged it in and done the backup, it probably would have been fine. But she read the instructions, and the computer got mad and died. George? And then mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that means I'll lose what's on there.
No. No. So the way Time Machine works is the first backup is all your files. And then each successive backup is just changed files, so the successive ones are much smaller. And then it condenses all those down, so every hour it backs up, so you don't lose more than an hour's worth of work. It condenses the hourly backups into a day, and it condenses the daily backups for a week. And then so when you start looking back in time, your previous backups will be 1 week apart. When the hard drive it's on gets full, it starts deleting the oldest backup files to make room for new files. We often recommend people buy a new hard drive then, so you don't lose that old backup history. Because part of the problem is you don't know when you lost that file. So if it's something that you lost 3 years ago and your backup only goes back 2 years, and now suddenly you need the file again, you're screwed. So a lot of times we'll have people will just buy another hard drive, especially if it's just a local USB hard drive. $100 you get a 2 terabyte drive. That'll last for a few years. You know, another, and then $100 will probably be a 4 terabyte drive. But every now and then we see that Time Machine needs to make a new backup file. And so that does not delete the old backup file. It just starts a new one. So the old backup history is still there for you to look at if you need to. The problem then becomes all that space is still used, and now there may not be enough room for your new backups. Depends on how big your backup drive is and how much free space there is. Something happened, and you may see a message that it's verifying the backup. There might have been a transmission error or a hiccup while it was writing a file. And if it can't verify the backup, then it will try to make a new one. So depending on how much space you have, you may not be able to continue very long with your new backup because the old one is still there. You can always open the backup drive and take a look at it, or get another backup drive. With the time capsule, you can't replace the internal drive. It's not user replaceable, but you can plug a USB hard drive in externally and start using that for more backup. Or what the time capsule does let you do is you can plug an external hard drive in and archive all the data on your internal drive to the external, and then go put that in a data-ready fire safe, and then erase the time capsule and then continue on with new backups. So you have that old history. Just a second, Rick. All right, and what was your name again? Jen.
So what you're saying is when you have to back up, I have to have something external to back up.
To back up onto, yes, you need somewhere to go. Flash drive, yeah. You can back up to a flash drive, but they're very, very small, and so you have to manually remember what files to back up onto, and they're relatively expensive comparatively. 128 gig flash drive is probably 50, 60, 70 bucks. A 1 terabyte hard drive is 50, 60, 70 bucks. So the hard drives are much less expensive per gig. Flash drives are usually better for transport. You want to take a file and somewhere between computers or give to someone, then the flash drives work pretty well. Yeah. Rick. Yes, we service technicians can replace the internal drive. Apple's warranty procedure, though, is just to replace the whole time capsule because that's easier. So the customer gets their thing back sooner. But yeah, out of warranty, we could open it up and replace the hard drive. The case is, what was the last one I got? There's glue, there's covered screws. It's pretty tricky to get into, yeah. All right, that's about all the time we have. Any last question? Sure. Yes, backs up everything on the hard drive. All your documents, your photos, your email, the OS, everything, yep. And so if you have a catastrophic failure, you can restore everything in one shot too. Yeah. So some people will only back up their documents. Then if there's a failure, you have to load the OS, load all the updates, load all your apps again, load all the updates again. Then you can get your documents. Yeah. So you back up everything. So technically, backing up everything is slower the first time, but restoring is a lot faster. Yep. Alrighty. So Saturdays at noon from 12 to 2 on Jazz 90.1 FM is our Sound Bites radio show that I do with past President Nick Francesco and Dave Enright, and of course it doesn't want to come up. We also do a live video stream there as well. Call-in question and answer between meetings. And then our board of directors meeting, well, actually Green Apples is going to be next week at 1 because next week is the third Saturday of this month. So our board meeting is next. I should have moved that up higher, shouldn't I have? Board meeting is next Wednesday, and then the Green Apples and Q&A meetings is the Saturday following that on the 21st. And if there is weather, it's Rochester, we might have another blizzard. You never know. If the school is closed or East High itself, or we'll try to get notice on the website. All right, thank you all for coming. We'll see you next month. We're going to have Sherry Wood is going to be showing off InDesign and how to do like a family newsletter for passing out to your friends and family. We'll see you all next month. Yes, second Wednesday of the month. Yeah, the Saturday meeting is the third Wednesday now. You're welcome. All right, why can't I bring up the quit command?